Okay, we are moving on to solving now. This is the good stuff of the unit and one that is very critical that you understand for 8th grade as well as high school and college. So you are going to solve one-step equations today through addition and subtraction, also multiplying and dividing. You're just going to be able to solve any kind of one-step equations today, okay? One-step equation means you have to do one thing in order to get the variable all by itself. Thus, one step. Okay, so for example, 5x equals 15, I have to move the 5, that one term, that one coefficient. If I had x minus 3 equals negative 21, I'd have to move the 3 to get x alone. I'd only have to move one thing. However, if I had this, that is, I'd have to move the 5, and I'd have to move the 4. That's a two-stepper. We're not doing two steps today. We're only having to move one thing today. And then you got to know how to move. So, in order to move things or get rid of things, we apply inverse operation. Inverse undoes the current operation. It's really doing the opposite. You're getting rid of something. Okay? So if I wanted to get rid of negative 2, I would add 2. If I wanted to get rid of divide by 5, the inverse of division would be to multiply by 5. So inverse undoes the current operation because our goal is to always get the variable by itself, which brings me to the next vocab word of now we are solving. Simplifying is expressions, solving is equations. Solving means you get the variable alone. The variable gets all by itself. And you must maintain balance because an equal sign means they are the same weight, right? They are equally balanced. So if you start getting rid of something, then you need to maintain that equality. And you must do it to both sides. So what you do to one side of the equal sign, you must do to the other side of the equal sign. You have to maintain the balance and maintain that fairness. So here I'm just making sure that you understand what the inverse operation is. Inverse, again, think opposite operation. So what's the opposite of adding? Yep, so if you want to get rid of add, you'll subtract. If you want to get rid of subtraction, what's the inverse? Add. What's the inverse of multiplication? Division. We show division with the division bar as 7th graders. And what's the inverse of division? Multiplication. I'm just going to put that little asterisk. That represents multiplication. So, you must know those. Inverse operations are like the opposite, quote unquote. Okay, so let's start applying this and solving some equations. One step are nice and easy. You only have to do one thing. So really what I say in my brain when I'm solving, I determine what inverse operation I'm going to use. So in my brain I say, okay, how do I get rid of it? What's the opposite? And then I do it to both sides. For example, x minus 5 equals 10. I need to get x alone. Well, you think there's two sides of the equal sign. There's the left side of the equal sign and the right side of the equal sign. So what's on the same side? This 5. So how do you get rid of minus 5? I add 5. Now I have to maintain that balance. So if I add 5 to the left, I need to add 5 to the right. And x is equal to 15. Because that would cancel out. Negative 5 and 5 cancels out. You undid it. You inversed it. Okay, now I have letter B. Y plus 9 equals 15. I need to get my y alone. So what is by the y? 9. The 9. So what's the inverse of plus 9?
Minus 9.
Yep, so I'm going to minus 9 to both sides of the equal sign. There's a left and a right. And then you get y equals 15 minus 9 would be 6. Y equals 6. I'm going to show you what I do with my 8th graders here. I still maintain, especially for your hours, I still maintain the plus and negative because you're going to get into multi-step equations soon. So I turn this into plus a negative 8. And then I do the inverse of the sign. So what's the inverse of a negative 8? How do you get rid of negative 8? Plus 8. So I would plus 8 to both sides. Uh-oh, be careful. Now do I add or subtract those actually? I subtract because they're different signs, right? A negative and a positive means I subtract. So what's that turn into? 6 and a negative, because there's more negative. Eight plus 8 equals 10. So I need to move my 8, so the inverse of adding 8 is subtracting 8, and A is 2. I'm going to make you show your inverse operations today. So I don't want you to just write the answer down because I'm prepping you up for solving more intense equations, and you have to know how to do one step in order to be a master at the multi-step. And you saw it on the pre-test. You know there's more stuff coming. So you need to be a master at this. Plus 2, x equals, I would subtract, and it would be negative 2. Minus 9. Uh-oh, now do you know what to do here? X equals, see how they're the same sign? That means you add them. It's like plus and a negative, so it's actually negative 15. All right, and I'm going to call it good with those. I think that you get the gist of it. So again, I figure out how to undo the current operation. The next thing you're going to be given is fractions. Yay, fractions and decimals. That's fun. So remember, for fractions, you need a common denominator. So let me show you how I do this. So x plus 1/3 is 4. Well, there's a couple ways you can handle this, whatever works best for your brain. You can turn 4 into a 3 right away if you want. Have a 3 on the bottom. What would that be? 12 over 3. So then I have x plus 1/3 equals 12 over 3. All right, now, how do you get rid of plus 1/3?
Minus 1/3.
Minus 1/3. And be careful. Look what I do. I show minus 1/3 on the left side like that, and then I'm going to do it horizontally on the other side. I do that so I can align my numerator and denominator up. You don't have to. You could do it vertically as well. My brain just likes it more the horizontal alignment. So then that cancels and you get x is 11/3. Or 3 goes into 11 how many times? 3 and 2/3. Okay. Now again, maybe I'm going to get a common denominator right away. That's how I work best. So I'm going to turn my 5 into a 10 and change my top number. So that's really 8/10, right? Yep, sure is. X plus 8 over 10 equals negative 3 over 10. I know I'm trying to be tricky here, but I'm not gonna fall for it. How do you move plus 8/10? I minus 8/10. Now watch what I'm gonna do. Minus 8/10. Minus 8/10. I hope you see it's plus a negative. I hope you see that. X equals negative 11 over 10, or negative 1 and 1/10. Yay, fractions. Yay, yay. Then we move to decimals. Next one with decimals and not utilizing a calculator. I'm going to line up the decimals when you add or subtract, okay? So I'm going to minus 0.12, minus 0.12. Notice I put a placeholder 0 in. I'm going to put a placeholder 0 on the top. And you get x equals, hey look, they're both negative, so you add them. You add them up and make it negative. So this would be negative 4.62. Now my variable's on the right-hand side, but that's okay. It's totally okay. And if you're wondering where this 4 came from, if you're getting to just that answer, remember it's plus a negative, and since they're the same sign, you just add them. You don't really subtract them. So I would plus 3.2, plus 3.2. I'm going to add a placeholder 0. And then guess what you do? You subtract them because see how they're different? A negative and a positive, so I really subtract these. So 9.01 minus 3.20 would be negative 5.80 equals x. What? Yep, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Oh man, I got to rewrite this a little bit. It's messy. Negative 5.81. So we've solved one step through adding and subtracting. And now we move to multiplying and dividing. And then we got to do fractions, and then we're done. Okay?